No, Michael said that too about how because we were asking about like the difference between playing at Castleton and with Clover, and he was talking about how like Brian kind of like here's the idea, here's about how you want to do it, but he like trusts us to go do the thing, and that's like you got good players, so you can, right?
Well, I mean, you and I even had a chance to talk about it. That's 100% right. I very rarely have been in a situation in an 8-10 or U12 game where I can kind of give some wide open freedom other than an idea of the day and have players kind of understand exactly what we're up to, even though we might have trained for it the last 3.5 weeks, to be able to, talk about a system of play or walk through it and then beat it up, right? Because they all played in other systems of play and they all had a chance to learn that system of play in other ways. So then to adapt, my thoughts and reasoning are quite honestly, I think that of a very intelligent player, because sometimes we're asking them to play systems a little differently and definitely a little more aggressively than I fancy that they've had the opportunity to work within. So it's fun to see them. We find a happy medium, I guess.
Yeah. All right, let's do this intro.
Welcome to the Pink and Green Podcast, where we explore the rise of Vermont soccer through the lens of community, culture, and the game itself, featuring stories from Vermont Clover FC. Join us as we talk with players, coaches, and the people shaping the future of the game in Vermont. Welcome to the Pink and Green Podcast. I am AJ Murray.
And believe it or not, I'm Chris George.
You are still Chris George.
Every morning.
Even after everything we've been through, you are still Chris George.
Every morning. Yep.
How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing fantastic. Here's what's on my mind today. Bicycle racing, specifically World Tour, like Grand Tour races.
Okay.
The Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France, and then La Vuelta a España at the end of the season. I love bicycle racing, and I like the drama of it, first of all. But what I really like about it is it happens early, and I'm kind of a morning person. It's in Europe. Yeah. So you pop that thing on in the background, and it like kind of gets you to lunch. And and you can kind of just listen to it. And then when the exciting stuff happens, you can pop over and look at it. And then you can watch guys like, maybe this is exciting only to me, but watching guys climb up mountains on bicycles, like that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And it kind of paces the summer, right? So the Giro happens in May, and then the Tour happens in July. It's usually going on the 4th of July and Bastille Day and all that stuff. And then in August is when the La Vuelta happens. Yeah.
Gotcha. Not something I followed, but sounds fun.
Yeah. What's on your mind today?
A haircut. I tell you what, man, I desperately need a haircut. I have one this afternoon. I'm pretty excited about it. We're very busy at work. We have a customer-facing conference coming up. And so this past week has just been meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And I've been on a marathon of meetings since I got home from the gym this morning. So yeah, I'm very relieved to be on here with you right now. And I'm very excited to talk to our guest today. Our guest today is Brian Buczek. He is the Director of Player Personnel and Head Coach for Vermont Clover. He was also the head coach for 12 years at Vermont State University Johnson, 2-time Conference Coach of the Year, 100 career wins, and the JSC Hall of Fame inductee. He was also the head coach for Stowe High School, 6-time Vermont State champions, 2 Capital Division Coach of the Year, 2-time VSCA Small Coach of the Year, 86 career wins, and 1 undefeated season. He is also the founder and director of coaching for Vermont United Soccer Academy for the past 11 years. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, AJ. It's great to be a part. Hi, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Does it make you blush a little when you hear all that stuff said all together at one time?
Yes. Yes. It makes me kind of sound probably a little older than I am. But unbelievably grateful. There's a heck of a lot of players and coaches and family members that went into that whole batch of greatness. And so fun. The memories from all the schools and the players. I always say I'm the richest guy in the world.
Yeah, there's something about coaching, right, that makes you feel that the wealth in the soul.
I think it's really cool that I've posted a few pictures of you from the games and stuff on Instagram, and I always get your past players commenting. There was the one shot where you're sitting with Lute on the bench, and I called it the pep talk, and a few of the guys were just like, "Oh yeah, yes. I know that look. I remember that talk." So I thought that was really cool.
Oh, it's so special. I'm because of Vermont Clover. Connecting with another player, Simon Perkins from Southern Vermont. And he was a part of a Middlebury group that I had a chance to be with, and a phenomenal, I'm going to say young man. He's not a young man anymore. He's got children. And but just, yeah, I was an only child growing up. So this is all my brothers and sisters. I couldn't feel more blessed.
That's awesome. So to kick things off, I would love to understand how Brian came to be, where he is today, the head coach of Vermont Clover. What's the connection between, I guess, you and Chris, and was this a position that a bunch of coaches applied for? Was just this? I mean, looking at the resume, it sounds like if you guys had any connection prior to Clover, it was just kind of like a, well, duh, this is who we're going to ask to do this thing. So how did that all happen?
So when I was doing when Clover started to happen, after Trey and I talked, and when it was starting to become a reality, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, some of whom I knew really well and had connections to, and some of whom I didn't know quite as well. And Brian was one of those people that we had connections through Paul Smith's and just from being around Vermont soccer for a long time, but we didn't know each other that well. It was more by reputation than anything. And so I called him up kind of in the context of some PSC talk, Paul Smith's talk, because Brian's an alum from there and I coach there. And I was like, I'm thinking about this thing. What do you think? We had a lot of conversation about it. And then when I was working through who should be the coach of this thing, there was really only one person that I thought of, and that was Brian. And I'll tell you why, is because I knew that what I wanted Clover to be was something that was really kind of player first and love focused, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a thing that Brian does better than I think just about anybody, is to build an environment that's really demanding, but he leads with love, and because of that, his players are super bought into it. And I knew if we were going to do this project right in the way that I wanted to, we needed to have everybody kind of on board for what the project was, which is put Vermont first, put players first. And so guys are building these relationships with each other. And so I called Brian and said, okay, here's really what it is. Do you want to coach it? And that's kind of how we got here. And, he thought about it. And I mean, I don't know. What's your side of that, Brian?
I had no idea you'd ask me to be a part of it. I was excited to be a part of the conversation as far as, what my thoughts were, and kind of, filling me in on some of the nuances and kind of how you were going to pull it together. But I have to say, I think that's where I thought that's kind of where our conversation was going to end. So then to ask if it would be something I was interested in, I'm a upstate New York guy that grew up in the middle of nowhere, who went to smaller schools, and that has, how do I say, I've just always loved what I've done, and was not necessarily sure if there would ever be an opportunity, something like this. And as you get a little older, and to have this opportunity, but then to believe in it so much, it was incredible. It was, as I've said, I think in the past, it was like that first coaching job, or that first win, or I was just over the moon and elated to be able to, I mean, and unbelievably super humbled to be thought of in that realm. There's amazing coaches in the state. Chris, you're a very, very good coach. Shane is a very, very good coach. I work with a lot of good coaches. So to be able to be a part I feel honored and like I want to do a great job every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do, I think. at least if the players can be believed, that, which is really the most important thing, and winning helps. A thing that I think about sometimes is that players in Vermont, they just really have no idea how good they have it from a quality of coaching perspective. There's a lot of good coaches in Vermont, a real lot. And not every kid is exposed to a great coach, but there are the quality, right? Like you can almost run into one by accident. And it is not like this as many places. For as few players that we have, there are so many good coaches.
And so many are dedicated. I mean, they'll coach in their high school, they're coaching college, and they're coaching club, or they're a part of Sporting Vermont, or they're aspiring to get to that next level. It's just they're littered throughout. I feel like in my since the late '90s, and great mentors. Everybody's kind of, for the most part, willing to put their arm around you to make sure that it gets better. It's a great community. It really is. And now that I think it's benefiting the players more and more. I think of where we started back in the day with like Nordic Spirit, but I'm talking like Pete DeMarco Nordic Spirit days, and some of those founding members to kind of where soccer is now in the state. It's unbelievable. It's grown to such a level, and the players are so good. I think that's the thing that probably I'm sorry, I'm spitballing here, but I think that's the thing that surprised me the most about the team's makeup is how many just really, really good ball players we have from the state right now, and how competitive we are.
Yeah, the level is unbelievable. And like even the guys that are like not as good are really good players, right? That's that kind of funny thing. And the truth is, we couldn't be doing this if they weren't as good as they are on a level of like, as good as all the other people in New England, right? We just wouldn't be able to do it. So, I believe in the work that we've all been doing to kind of raise these guys up, even though none of them, or very few of them, have played for me or have played for you, but just collectively, we as a coaches in Vermont have like kind of raised these guys up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun.
Brian, I want to talk to you about how you feel this season is going. When this thing first started, I've more or less been there, since the first week of training. And I remember having a conversation with you the last practice before the first game. And it was kind of like, whoo, that was a tough practice session. Didn't really have super high hopes going into the first game. And then, we came back with, what was it, 5-1 or 1-5 win. And now here we are today. We're a couple games left of the regular season. We've already secured our spot for postseason. And what are we, like 7-1? So what's the journey been like for you? What was your kind of expectation walking into this thing versus, the reality of where we are today?
What a great question. And I think in the beginning it was, okay, who are the guys going to be? What does it look like? And then we kind of moved from one phase of playing on the far post side in training with like a core, but guys coming in and out of, let's call it 30. And then we moved over to Forever Summer, and things changed. Now all of a sudden holidays happen, so we're starting to see some private school guys. Breaks are happening, so we're seeing some college guys, and now the landscape has really changed. Now we're training somewhere like 50, 60, 70 different players, and where we haven't had the opportunity to get outside other than like just a couple of times, and trying to figure out who that group is that's going to play the night before. I'm going to be very honest. I was nervous, and training was tense, and I could feel that it was tense. It was tense with the guys, and afterwards we got around in a circle after that training, and I said, okay, guys, based on what we've worked on, what are we thinking about tonight? What are we thinking about our first game? And kind of everybody had some really phenomenal things to say, very intelligent. But one player, Sean Butler, said, "Yeah, to have fun." And boy, I left practice that day thinking, it was just really fun all the way up until this time where it got tense, and we were talking about a matter of yards when it came to defensive position about something. And I remember going home and thinking to myself, wow, that's really kind of, everybody kind of said their piece, and when he said that, everybody kind of nodded. And so, I took that as geez, going into tomorrow's match, let's not be so let's not be so tight in the keister. And when we had a chance to be on the road and have individual meetings, and I thought we really got a chance to individually with each player discuss, what it is that's working and what it is that we wanted to do, and we were really able to execute. And so, from that time, AJ, to where we are now, we've had a chance to get through some adversity. We got a chance to take a loss. We had a chance in that game to deal with some things that might not happen in other games, and then to bounce back and play an okay first half and a phenomenal second half. And I feel like we're back on the, not necessarily winning ways, but like clicking on all cylinders. And we used some new players, which is an a never-ending kind of story, that came in and made a phenomenal impact in the second half, against the Boston team. So, goodness, where we kind of started and where we are now, I almost feel like we're in the best kind of, we're vibing right now. Like we're in the best feeling of where we've been in the season. We're, excited to play at 7:00 on Sunday in Falmouth. and reclaim our territory, up in Maine, and just to now get ready for playoffs and start to work on some things, and the scouting kind of picks up a little more. But I think that, personally, where we are right now today, I feel really good about where we're at as a team. And I think how the coaching staff is, although we didn't really know one another other than Lou and I, that we're very honest and very forthright in how we feel. The players are, it feels to me, we talk to them very plainly about things like why we subbed you out, or why I subbed you out, and why you're going in. And so you can't make all the people happy all the time, but at least they know what's going on, and there's no kind of gray area, if you will. And I think the more we can focus on trying to get better every day and being successful and being gritty, I think it's hard to beat a team twice. And I'm very excited about our matches going forward. The most important one, of course, being Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to ask you, what goes through your head as you're building the roster? Because, I mean, I've said this 100 times in this podcast, and I'll say it again. I'm not an athlete, but when I look at everybody during practice and playing games, there's a ton of talented people here. So how do you narrow that down? How do you get to 11 out of the pool that we've got?
Well, that's the impossible chore, because number one, you're leaving players home that could start and maybe have started and maybe even have points for the team. And so it's a feeling, and it's really as what does Wednesday look like? What does Monday look like? Now it's okay. What is working? And it's okay to be disruptive in that process. And what I mean by that is where everyone feels very challenged and honored to be able to make one of those 20 spots. And then if you're lucky enough to get the nod in the starting 11, to know that your time on the field depends on how effective we are with you there. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just a personnel change that needs to be made. But no, that's of course, that's the hardest, AJ. That's the hardest decision. On any given day, we probably could make 2 full teams of players that could go after just about anybody. And that's a wonderful problem to have, as well as a tough one at times.
Sure. I want to make a comment on something, and then I'm curious, was this by design? So I've seen I've done a lot of like, corporate training, leadership stuff. A lot of high performing teams build in this kind of intentional, no holds bar feedback session, right? Like they're not afraid to tell each other like what I really thought of your performance, how you could improve. And that's how collectively everybody gets better. And I see a lot of that happening. At the halftime huddles, at the end of the game, everybody's really giving some solid feedback. Hey, next time you pass to me, do this, or I really need you to do that, when you're playing this section of the field. Is this something that you kind of built intentionally, or is just this something the guys just kind of started doing?
Just earlier today, solving a problem with another group of people, it really just came down to communication and making sure that everybody feels like they had their moment to speak, that they've been heard, that they've now you have the opportunity to see things through their perspective. So, with 11 players on the field and another, X amount waiting in the wings to get in, to some extent, I feel like a collective voice is better than one. And a lot of times when the players solve our struggle in communication with a mediator, it really is more effective than sitting there and being told. Now we have to be cerebral, and we together have to form an opinion on what that particular person is saying. One of the highlights of those particular meetings is really making sure that we're all on the same page, and then being able to, as the coaching staff, kind of bring in that maybe sage advice, or that everything you're saying is completely right, and then you're adding kind of your piece, and that way now you've solved the psychological battle. Now we can kind of break it down in the tactical piece, because you're right. I could probably play the ball quicker, and all of a sudden you're starting to look at the game, and now we're starting to figure out a way tactically, what we're going to do to thwart that, or what we're going to do to be a bit more offensive minded. And I think that's when you get the most out of it, when everybody's communicating on solving that problem. The buy-in becomes more like a fist than all of us separated an island and just hearing somebody babble.
Yeah, this is the other thing about working with good, high level and more mature players, right? Is if I say to you, hey, I really need the ball right on my foot versus a yard ahead, I look at that and I'm like, all right, that's what I'm gonna do next time, versus that's a referendum on how good I am as a passer or as a person or as a player, right? They're all in it for the same thing. They all want to win. They all want to get better. They all want to help each other get better. And they all want to make each other look better, right? They're all like really committed to making everybody look good. So they're all in it for the same thing. So they may have a disagreement that they're easy to work out because they're all coming from the same place. One thing I was really impressed with that kind of is about this at halftime of the last game that we played against Boston Street, two of the guys, Henry and Miles, right? So in the first half, Henry was kind of struggling about like with what runs he should make, when he should make them, and kind of keying off the forward, right? Playing in that more advanced midfield position. And he and Miles had been talking a little bit during the game, like from 30 yards apart, right? Like Miles was saying, hey, I need you here or whatever. And they just weren't on the same page. And in halftime, the two of them were sitting together and having this like really deep conversation about like, no, you're queuing off this when this is happening because I'm looking at this. And they're like the two of them, like with their fingers, just like this, talking and kind of getting each other through like, how is the best way to be for each other? Not, I need you like this, or I need you like that.
Yes.
Is how can we be the best together so that we're all working from the same page? And I thought that was really, really cool. And what I've been really impressed with is with you, and why I knew you were right from the beginning, is that you create an environment where that's allowed to happen, right? It's explicitly, not just allowed, but explicitly encouraged. You trust those guys to be smart about it and to work through that and give them the space to do it rather than telling them exactly what to do.
I've always found it just builds continuity, because it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. We just need to be right once. We just need to try to solve it. And I Chris, you've experienced this, even substitutions. I got in my mind who I would play in that next spot, but I want to kind of know the people around me. What's your thoughts and why? And again, I'm okay with being wrong.
I would have probably been wrong on Saturday, or right in a different way, is the way that I would put it. But we just kind of talked it through with Al, and turned out to work out all right.
Yeah, and that's another great quality, right? If you want to be a good coach or a good player, you need to be really self-aware, right? That worked, and here's why. That didn't work, and here's why. And a thing that doesn't work out is really just an opportunity to get it right the next time. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible coach because they made a bad substitution. It's like, all right, I tried this thing. I thought it was going to work a certain way. It worked a different way, and moving on to the next thing, right? It's an interesting quality to have where you need to be really like able to move on quickly, but kind of keep that in the back of your mind for like, how am I going to do it different the next time, right? It's like the post evaluation of the thing.
Brian, I want to talk about the Boston Emeralds game. It was our first loss of the season. There's a saying that I've heard that I really love. You can have a great life, or you can have a good character. Rarely can you have both at the same time. Was this loss something that Vermont Clover maybe needed or could benefit from?
Well, there's never a loss that's needed, AJ. I look back. I look back. There's a few things that I think I could have done to help us out a little bit. I think we played as well as we could that day. They played as well as they could on that day, and they were the better team. After reviewing the game, I have some questions, but those are not questions for now. Those will be questions for later, and I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get a chance to play them another time.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think the guys kind of took that? I mean, it seems like they kind of took it in stride. There was, as I walked around the pitch and in the huddles and stuff, there was some obvious like, kind of stuff, but it didn't seem like it took very long for them to start to move forward.
Well, on to the next one. It's what's the old saying? You might have won the battle, but we're out to win the war kind of idea. And so, regular. We're really excited to put ourselves in an opportunity to match up with them another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know, or I'm curious about, what has been the most surprising part of the whole process for you?
Oh, the most surprising part, the buy-in for the guys, top to bottom, and their determination has been unbelievably impressive. I knew that was going to be there, but I didn't realize to the extent. I would say that first. I would say second, I am impressed with how organized it is from where I sit, as well as everything that you do, Chris, and kind of our social media and handling player relations. I think it's unbelievably professional, and the guys feel that way. And so, from a coaching standpoint, when the administrative part is so solid and the communication is solid, we speak so much that it feels very seamless in its first year. That is very surprising to me. And then I would say overall the dedication of the coaches, and the dedication to kind of everybody around us, from Mateo's mom helping out at the stand to our guys that are helping put chairs and tables out and helping you in game day operations. AJ being around to document everything from from everything to where we're at as a podcast. It's just really a phenomenal professional organization to be a part of, and it's probably been the most impressive. I thought it was going to be a little more fly by the seat of our pants, but it's not even close to that.
Yeah, we're trying. Sometimes it feels like we're flying at night with our sunglasses on, but we always find a way to land the plane.
Brian, what else do we need to know? Do you have any big plans you can share with us? Is there anything that maybe caught you off guard this year? What goes on in your head throughout the course of the season as things have gone along?
mean, I'm so excited that we're 7-1. The chatter in the soccer community is super fun. I don't think I think the comments that I get from friends is they're like, I can't believe so and so is playing. I remember when he played, or hey, does so and so, does this particular player, is he going to have a shot at some point? It's now families that I know through club soccer are asking a lot of questions, excited that there's another opportunity. Sometimes I'm gonna say it feels surreal that we're doing kind of what we're doing in this market and having the impact. I feel like we're getting better every day. I think we've done some things to be a little more efficient in our training with the starters right before big matches, and I think that's going to make sure that our focus is super sharp. And Sunday is the most important game of the season. A victory there puts us one step closer to getting ourselves into a position to be the best team in New England and prove it outright.
Yeah, it's been really important for me to have that kind of open dialogue, not just with you, but with everybody, because organizationally, I want to not have the same challenge twice, or not make the same mistake twice, or whatever. So when somebody says, "Hey, this," I really want to try to plan for that thing. So when you guys came and said, "Hey, I think we need to change this a little bit for training so that we can do this," I'm like, "Okay, what can we do to make that happen?" And try to make that happen to the degree that we're able. That's been a really important thing for me. And it came up before that open and honest feedback. With my team at Paul Smith's, we have a rule that we call radical honesty, which is to say that anything I'm saying to anybody at any time, like I would say that I'm too. And guys appreciate how kind that is, even if it isn't always the nicest thing, because you can look a guy in the eye and be like, "That did not work at all for you." And they say, "Yep, I know it didn't," right? They know the truth, but they know that you're not saying that to other people and not saying that to them, right? So, and we have
right,
that,
right.
It's so important, right? If somebody feels like, "Oh, this isn't working," and I wouldn't say that to Chris, well, like then I'm doing something wrong from an organizational leadership perspective.
I don't know, AJ. I'm just pumped to be a part. I don't know anybody who's excited to go to a 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock practice at night, and I'm sometimes I take a nap beforehand. Sometimes I walk the lake beforehand. I mean, it's for me. I'm over the moon. I'm like, whew, this is great. I'm never a part where I'm like, I can't believe I got to practice this late. I'm just like, I can't believe all the guys show up, and we're gonna have a, yeah. I'm over the moon. Everything. I'm excited about Sunday.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting too. You're not a Burlington local. You've got a little bit of a haul in there to get to practices, to get to and from practices. For anyone
I live a mile away from the lifts at Still.
that's a haul to Burlington at 9 o'clock at night, and then back home after that, after 10:30, 11. For our listeners, if anybody's finding this podcast, maybe they haven't been to watch one of our games yet, how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
Oh, well, we're a fun team to watch. We want to transition quickly and get into the other team's offensive area. If we can do it with the ball on the ground, great. If it's in other ways, that works for me as well. We've scored a ton of goals. We've scored the most goals in the league, and we play in a high pressure situation. So that sometimes will expose us. So their transition happens fairly quickly as well. So if you're coming to games and you're looking for a team that's going to knock it around the back for 80 minutes, we're not your go. We hope the other team wants to do that for sure. But we're playing into checking attacking players and trying to advance the ball on the strong and weak side, and we've got the players to do it. So it's really a fun, fast game to get a chance to watch. It's the one I like to play as well, to be honest. So I'm kind of if I'm going to sit there for 90 minutes, we might as well have fun.
I want to ask this next question, because I'm thinking that future potential players for Clover are going to be listening to this podcast because they kind of want to learn like what goes on behind the scenes and you know, maybe some tips and tricks that they can learn to help make the team. So what traits do you look for in a player that don't show up on a stat sheet?
First of all, what kind of teammate are you? You know, are you that would be number one. If you're brand new to the scene, are you kind of making friends? Are you, I mean, making friends, just introducing yourself? What's your attitude like? Or what's your body language like? How do you interact with myself and the coaching staff? Are you looking us in the eye? Is it a firm handshake? When I try to engage you, do you want to communicate, or are we shutting down? Um, and then you know then and then there's the next piece. To be fair, usually people that are I'm able to communicate with, because in this setting it's a lot of one-on-one time. I mean, there's team talk, but really to get your point across with strategy or things that they need to kind of work through to stay in the starting lineup or to earn a spot in the starting lineup, those are individual conversations. And of course they need to be able to do what you're asking, of course, but how are they receiving that information? How is those discussions happening? I would say for younger players, um, once you get kind of to us, everybody's there's not a lot of difference. There's maybe some superpowers that some kids have over others. Maybe there's a speed or a strength or their ability on the ball, or with their back to the a player, or their scoring ability. I mean, there's so many variations, but who they are as a human being and as a person. Are they worrying? Are they, when the going gets tough, are they pointing their fingers, or are they taking some looks at themselves on how they can improve stuff? So in a very small amount of time, character is huge. Absolutely. I would say probably as important as your ability to play, because we have to be cohesive. There's always going to be some bickering and things like that, but at the end of the day, we still need to be one. And so, yeah, work as hard as you can, practice when no one's watching, to figure out the things that aren't that great in your game, try to get better at those. I would say your physical fitness piece is probably more than you think it should be. You should go and do more. And do you need weights and trainers? Sure, you could have those, but 100 to 250 push-ups and sit-ups and different variations could get you there. Making sure that you get road work, sleep. It's how you take care of your body. It's all a big thing. Chris knows, because of the college game, and in the short amount of time you've got to play 20 games and have athletes heal up and be a part of something that's special. All those pieces, not just athletic ability, have to be on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that really surprises players at every new level they go up. And I don't mean going from 13 to 14 to 15, but going from the club game into the college game, or going from the college game into this game where you're playing against players that are older and more experienced and kind of more physically capable than you are, is the level of physicality gets way, way bigger, way faster. You go from playing I think it's a real big challenge. And why we do that futures program is it's a big challenge, because you spent your entire life playing against kids that are basically your same age, year older, year younger, same age as you. And then you show up as this brand new, can barely grow hair on your face 18-year-old, and you're playing against grown men, right? And you're competing for spots against grown men, 22, 23. And you look at our team, we're generally younger. We got a few older guys. We got a couple of guys over 25. We got a couple of guys that are, 22 or 23. And mostly we're like 18, 19, 20. And the level of physicality and the teams we play against are 25, 26, right? So the level of physicality between a guy who's 26 years old and a guy who's 20 years old is like night and day. Right. And soccer, people forget, because we focus on the kicking and the passing and whatever. Soccer is a running game with occasional kicking. It is not a kicking game with occasional running. It is a running game with occasional kicking. I mean, at the top level, guys are getting something like 100 touches in 90 minutes. It's like one touch a minute. It's not very much.
That's crazy.
right?
Yeah, I mean, talking about 3 minutes of actual play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the rest you're just walking around, or you're sprinting around, or you're, like it's wild how little you touch the ball in a game that you're completely focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people take for granted, and for young players too, uh, like being able to physically play soccer is kind of the price of admission to the next level, and then your attitude really defines your success, because attitude compounds over and over and over again. If you show up with a bad attitude and you keep a bad attitude, you just don't get any better. You get worse, and guys don't want to play with you. If you show up, maybe you're not quite as good as that guy, but you show up with a great attitude and you're focused on making the people around you better and you're focused on making yourself better, you get better fast. And guys want to play with you, so they invest in you because you're investing in them. That's the one piece of advice that I would give to young players is be willing, like invest in the guys around you, because the guys around you are going to make you look good or they're not.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times 17, 18, 19 are the guys that the guys on the team like the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the difference between who is player, let's say a roster of 20, right? You're not taking a guy who's talented but hard to handle as guy 19 or 20. You're taking a guy that you know is going to be rock solid emotionally,
Exactly.
going to be a great teammate, who's going to be happy to be on the ride, even if he's gone to Maine for a 7 p.m. game and not getting back at 2 a.m. and not complain about only getting 5 minutes or not getting any minutes at all. You want a guy that's just show up like all team, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just want to take a moment to highlight one of the guys in the player pool, Busby. That guy is all Clover in his heart, right? Like this guy is, I mean, he shows up and he helps at games that he's not in the game section for.
Yes,
he takes a long ride. He knows there's not going to be tons of minutes for him. And, that's a guy that's incredibly valuable to the whole thing, even if he's not one of the best 20 soccer players on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal person. Great character on the team. High work rate. Can't say enough positive things about him.
Right. Love that guy. And, our hope is that he'll stick around and he'll be a part of the organization for a long time in the future. Right. And, we've started to talk to him about that.
I love that.
Possibly, help him maybe get into coaching and, because I think he'd be an incredible coach. And, that's another thing that the original question was, what's the advice you'd give to young players? And it's like, the guys we like are guys that we look at and we're like, oh, he'd be an incredible coach someday. Right. They understand what it takes to be successful, the work rate, things like that. It's a leadership thing, right? Not that not that you're necessarily going to have to make that choice, but think about if you're going to be the coach and kind of apply that to your playing.
Brian, I want to dig a little deeper into Brian. Can you tell me a couple of defining moments that kind of helped shape the way that you coach?
Boy, that's boy, from a coaching perspective, I was, Brad Orway, Shane Barton, Greg Borzilleri, Peter Albright. Those were my high school and college coaches, and they were just great men first who happened to know a little bit about soccer. Peter Albright probably helped me the most understand the game more tactically, I would say. And then, being around Vermont Soccer School and David Sayward and Peter and a whole bunch of other great coaches really helped me. John Warner was a mentor of mine very early on. But my first year, I was 23 years old. There's guys that I was coaching that played for me at Johnson State, and I was not good at all in the X's and O's, and I think but I had an idea of how to play and how I wanted us to train, and we somehow, AJ, in my first year, we beat it's not even a school anymore, St. Joe's of Vermont, Rutland, and Rob Montgomery, you'll never forget it, hit a moving ball to his right. He could hit a dead ball, great. Even moving ball to his right, and that put us up 2-1. And then we somehow made playoffs, and this school in southern Vermont called Green Mountain, I think, beat us 6-0 in the first round. But that was a very defining moment that when everything was on the line, and we'd only won 4 games that first season, but there was one that really mattered, and I put all my eggs in that basket that we were going to try to get the playoffs. And we kind of trained all season with the idea of let's try to make playoffs. I don't think they did the year before, and it broke the span of like 40 years in a row or something. And we did, and that allowed me to know, okay, I could put a plan together, do it for a week or so, and boy, we could come out positive. That was a big piece. And then I worked at Windridge Tennis and Sports Camps as the director of soccer, assistant director of camp, and I'd have all these kids from other countries come in and to camp. And one big deal was we'd play other camps, and that was really important to the ownership of the camp that we were successful. But we'd have these kids from Paris and from let's say 7 or 8 different countries and metropolitan cities overseas, plus a group of kids from the United States, and it was to get them to play together. And I started thinking about soccer kind of the way basketball is kind of practiced in like patterns, if you will. And so, not that was anything like groundbreaking or anything, but I started to learn how to train kids in a 4-4-2 in patterns of play, and developed like 17 different patterns, not for anything more than to just get the basics, so these kids had an idea of how to play together. And I found that in a very short amount of time, it worked. And that, AJ, to be fair, is now all of a sudden I kind of had a system that I could coach, and now I had a kind of a system of play that I could teach. And that was like when the light bulb came off, and I really applied kind of that idea to Stowe. And it worked out all well. And those were really like big aha moments. Like, oh, this is wow, this could work. Like, I think I'm onto something.
Nice. A couple more questions for you as we start to wrap this thing up. So I've got a son. He plays U12. What's the most surprising thing to me is when I go to practices and watch what happens, I see him doing a lot of the same. I see Clover doing a lot of the same drills that my son does. Like you guys start to set up for something like, oh, I know what's going to happen here. And so I got to ask you, like, what's the biggest difference between coaching? I know you have a wide range of teams that you coach and stuff. What's the big difference between coaching, Clover and a U12 team? I mean, sometimes these guys screw around, they don't listen to you, and you got to make them do sit-ups and push-ups and get back paying attention to what we're doing here. So on the surface, I'm sure, there's a lot of stuff, but sometimes it looks like U12 because kids are going to be kids. Guys are going to be guys, right?
Yeah. That's as you're talking earlier, it's that fine line about being too tight and too loose is you still have to maintain that quality. But there's only so many ways you can run a possession drill or a break the lines drill, and so you make it creative with restrictions and wins and points, but it's the same thing. And you're right. I mean, the kids said the other day, Coach, I saw your Clover guys do the Y passing. I'm like, it's just that good. That's why we do it. And it kind of makes people have to communicate head up with limited touches. And where did I learn it? I learned it from PSG's, the professional team was using it and breaking it down in different variations. I figured if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. But no, what's the difference? The 12-year-olds listen a little better. They don't chatter when I'm talking. Maybe my language is a touch more colorful with the older guys. That's just to get their attention. But no, it's that's the love of the game. It's still somewhat the same. We're just asking for more efficiency and I would say efficiency and concentration from time to time. But what a great observation. It ain't much different, that's for certain.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that you let me bring my son around every once in a while. We let him come by during school breaks and stuff like that. And he's had a ball playing with the guys. He's had a ball watching the guys. And I've kind of tried to express to him, like, hey, man, they're doing the same exact drills you do. Like, I hope you're seeing that. I hope you're noticing this. Like, you're building your skills now, and it's going to be great skills later on. Because he loves the game, and he loves watching the guys. He loves hanging out with you and coming to the games and stuff. It's been a real family affair. To kind of wrap things up, Brian, is there anything that we didn't ask you that we should have?
No, I mean, I think the most exciting thing is if this is where our base is in our first year, what's it going to be like 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Yeah.
I think that's the part for me is to be on the ground floor of this pathway for players. And, we're already starting to see our players as leading goal scorers, within our conference and colleges where kids are looking to transfer to or attend are starting to reach out. So everything that, I think Chris, Shane, and Trey thought about in the beginning, it's all coming to fruition. This opportunity where how cool is it if I got the chance to play at that level? Holy cow, how cool is it if I got a chance to play at this level? And that springboarded me to this other level and other opportunity. I mean, as Chris mentioned, with one of our players interested in coming on in the coaching staff, I mean, this couldn't be in its holistic Vermont approach any cleaner. It's like one of the most pure the things that soccer's maybe ever had in the state. It has nothing really to do with money. Sure, we got to pay our dues and our stuff like that, and our facility stuff, and we need to have nice uniforms and all that stuff. But this is so player centric that the knowing that there's going to be a women's team announced hopefully very soon, and some other things are really setting up. I mean, I kind of wish I was a little younger. This really sets up players to have an opportunity in our own state to look at the semi-professional game in different stages is unbelievable in this market. It really is. It rivals cities that have 3 times, 4 times as many people as our state has. So it's amazing to me to be a part of this excitement and be at the helm in its first season. And I would say that's probably, I feel blessed to be a part of it, because this thing is going to grow to who knows what. It's going to be exciting to see.
Going to say the really cool thing is that we get to get these guys together to build these relationships, because it is the future of the soccer community, right? Like, some of these guys are going to stay and they're going to coach, and they're going to coach their kids, and they're going to have these relationships where maybe a guy from Rutland and a guy from Burlington didn't know each other at all, but they're going to play each other next season, and they're going to say hello after a game, and they're going to start looking forward to being back in the team together, and they're going to build these relationships. Or a guy's looking to transfer, and there's another guy in the team that plays there, and that's part of the reason that he either does or doesn't make that decision based on that person's feedback about his experience. It's like, it's all this value-added stuff by just, leaning into the fact that everybody's 1 degree of separation away from each other. And in a way that only Vermont can do this, right? We're the only state that's small enough to really, really be able to build these relationships for these guys in the best way.
Absolutely. Well,
so fun.
I think we are just about at time. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a fun episode. I love talking to you on and off the pitch. So appreciate your time. And thanks for being here. Is there anything that you want to kind of shout out, let people know to check out, anything you're involved in outside of Vermont Clover?
Vermont United Soccer Academy is strong as ever in the Lamoille County area, servicing kids from Harwood, kids from Montpelier now, kids from Mount Mansfield Academy. We're really excited to gain some more strength in our youth numbers, and we've got some programs we're going to announce this summer for the fall. But just really proud of our soccer state, and I can't thank you enough, Chris and AJ, for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. I want to remind our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm sure you did, you got to check out the podcast on YouTube as well to make sure you're watching the video version. Hit that subscribe button in YouTube and your podcatcher to make sure you catch all of our future episodes. We'll see you next time on the Pink and Green Podcast.
We sure will. Have a blessed day.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Pink and Green Podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing their story. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It helps more people discover the growing soccer community here in Vermont. You can follow Vermont Clover FC and the Pink and Green Podcast on social media for updates, match coverage, and behind-the-scenes content throughout the season. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep supporting local soccer and keep the game growing.